Deep breaths, we'll do fine. Oregon's final record prediction, it's finally time.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks, which is why, if you have not already, please like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to or watch this show, which is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. And it is time for me to finally, at long last, make Oregon's final record prediction to begin today's show. Plus, injury reactions and some Big Ten expectations coming up on today's pod. But I have thought long and hard about this. I have heard many pundits and fans talk about what Oregon's record is going to be. Drop yours in the comments below or hit me up on X, formerly known as Twitter. I have Oregon going 12-0. Just letting that sit there. It's out there now. I have said it. I'm not going to edit it out of the show. I think Oregon goes undefeated in the regular season, makes the Big Ten championship game in their first year in the league. Now, is this the only outcome I see as being feasible for Oregon? No. 11-1 entirely possible. 10-2 feasible. 9-3 is the absolute floor. A lot of things would have to go wrong for Oregon to go 9-3. Unlucky break, major injury, something along those lines, because this team is absolutely ready for this schedule, which works out in Oregon's favor. And that's a big part of the reason I feel good about picking the Ducks to go 12-0. I know I'm not alone in this sense. Josh Pate picked them to go 11-1. Eric Skopel over at 24/7, who's been on the show several times before, he picked Oregon to go 12-0 as well. And it comes down to the Ohio State game being at home. If that game were on the road, I know Oregon went in there in Columbus in 2021 and kind of shocked the world. Shocked me, frankly. One of my favorite days ever as an Oregon fan, because I fully expected to lose that football game. And then all of a sudden they won, and Oregon was catapulted into the college football playoff discussion. They were the preseason number, I think, 11 or 12 team that year. And then all of a sudden they had a 3 next to their name. By the time the college football playoff rankings came out, they were there. And then, well, we know what happened afterwards. But I think that this Oregon team comes in with a lot of preseason hype. I think they're absolutely ready across the board to live up to it. They just have to go out on the field and execute. But a couple things on the schedule as to why I think Oregon goes 12-0 this year. Number one, they get to start with a tune-up game this Saturday at Austin Stadium. I can't overlook that factor. There are teams that are going to be in dogfights this week. Miami plays Florida. USC plays LSU. Texas A&M plays Notre Dame. Clemson plays Georgia. Like, when Oregon played Georgia a couple of years ago in Atlanta, and where they were 17.5-point dogs and it didn't go very well, that game probably would have been a little bit better if they'd had Eastern Washington the first week and Georgia the second week. They still lose the game. They still lose it by a sizable amount. Is it quite that bad? Maybe not. They might throw a touchdown in there just for fun. But starting with Idaho to work Dylan Gabriel into the fold and get him acclimated at game speed with this Oregon offense, and certainly, you know, they've had all fall camp to get ready for the season, but it's still different. When you step onto the field, I don't care who you're going against, it is different. So having Idaho week 1, I think, is a great thing for the Ducks when you're working in a new quarterback. Then Boise State. You can't overlook the Broncos. Oregon's never beaten Boise State before. I see that in the YouTube comments a lot. Oregon's 0-4 against Boise State. Fact check, true. That is a true statement. Oregon has a much better roster than Boise State. They've got Maddox Madsen starting at quarterback, not Malachi Nelson. I think Madsen is certainly capable, and I think he won the job more than Malachi Nelson lost it. So I expect Boise State to be good, to give Oregon a solid push. But having Boise State and then Oregon State on the road, where you're a 20-point favorite in Corvallis, those are games that Oregon should be able to get through. Then you've got UCLA, ironically, for your first Big Ten conference game. I did my prediction for UCLA over on Locked On College Football. I think they're going 3-9, and I'd pick them to go 2-10 before I pick them to go 4-8. Then they play Michigan State at home. Again, that's a rebuilding team. They are at home. Their roster got depleted in the transfer portal. Oregon, the beneficiary of that, in one sense, of course, with DJ Harmon coming in at defensive tackle. Then it's the Ohio State game. And if this were in Columbus, I'd probably feel like Oregon loses the game. But Oregon went 11-1 last year because their biggest game in the regular season, their toughest game, was on the road. If that game's at home, probably a different outcome. But Oregon's got Ohio State at Autzen Stadium this year. It's going to be one of the biggest games in the history of the stadium, in the history of Oregon football, because anytime you get a chance to play Ohio State, it's a big game. It's a big game. But the magnitude of both teams being Big Ten title contenders, I think, works into Oregon's favor. And you've got the better quarterback, you've got home field advantage, and you have a couple of really good rosters and a couple of really good head coaches who people like to say hasn't won anything because they haven't won national championships yet, which is an interesting standard, which means only 2 coaches in college football are actually any good. But I digress. So I think Oregon wins that game. Purdue, Illinois, Maryland, not particularly worried about those games. Wisconsin on the road late in the year gives me pause. Oregon opens as a 10-point favorite. Just watch Florida State lose as a 10-point favorite. That line could be smaller. By the time that game rolls around, that game could be bigger. But I had Ryan Herrings, a Locked On Wisconsin Badgers, on the show earlier this summer in July, and he talked about how he feels confident that Oregon is going to be able to win the game. On paper, they should. But as Florida State learned, game is not played on paper. Wisconsin gives me pause. Michigan gives me pause. It's why Josh Pate had a great line when he was on the Odds and Audibles podcast. He said, can I pick them to be 11.5 and 0.5? Or, can I pick them for 11.5 wins? That's where my head is at. And I lean towards 12-0, and that's where I'm landing for my official prediction here. Because you have Michigan on the road, who is undergoing a massive reset compared to the team that they were a season ago. They're still going to be good. Oregon's only a 3.5-point favorite right now. That line, I do suspect by that game could be a little bit bigger, but I like Oregon's chances because I like Oregon's quarterback more because they actually know who it is. Michigan does not. I like Oregon's roster more because they have a lot more retention and continuity, and Michigan has got some high-level players, and that is a good football team, and Oregon could absolutely lose the game. But the quarterback factor, to me, puts it over the top that I think Oregon goes in the big house and wins. They're better in Wisconsin across the board. And then you have Washington at home. And I think every Oregon fan in the world is hoping that the Ducks play to their full potential. If not in that Michigan game, then save it for Washington. Or if not in Wisconsin, save it all for Washington and win that game by as many points as possible. That might be, for Oregon fans, the most important game on the schedule. Ohio State's the biggest. But there is no excuse to not beat this Washington team. Barring an injury to all of Oregon's top three quarterbacks on the depth chart, you got to beat Washington at home. Oregon's going to be a big favorite. They are a big favorite right now. FanDuel has that line at 19.5. They should be. They're better. Jed Fish has been open about saying that Washington is in a reset. They're in a total reset. Oregon's not in a reset. They're in win now mode. So I think they're going to win that game. I think they will beat Washington. I think they'll beat Oregon State. Wisconsin, I think they can beat Michigan on the road. Ohio State, because it's at home, I like the Ducks. So the schedule works out. Could I see 11-1? Yeah, won't fault you or say you're being ridiculous if you pick Oregon to go 11-1 or even 10-2. 9-3, I need to have a conversation or understand why you think Oregon is going 9-3. They're winning at least 10 games this year. They've done so each of the last 4 full college football seasons. I expect them to do it again, and I think they go 12-0 for the second time in program history. I'm sure no one will have any thoughts or comments on that. So don't even waste your time going on the YouTube. I'm kidding. Totally drop comments or tell me that I'm a fool or that I'm a genius on Twitter, whichever you'd like, or anything in between. I couldn't care less. It's fun to interact with you all no matter what. Practice reports came out. There were some notable injuries to be wary of going into Saturday's matchup with Idaho, and I'm going to react to those coming up next. First, let's talk about Game Time. Game Time Picks makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all of the fluff, which is not what you want. You just want the meat and potatoes, so you only see the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever you are looking for. You get a panoramic view of your seat before you arrive. They have their lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So, whatever you're trying to go to, an Oregon game or anything else, go check out Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying those tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. That's LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So, this episode, by the way, also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, and Oregon's win total over there is 10.5. That's tied for the highest in all of college football, and FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And you want to know something even cooler? Here, let me hit you with this. We have something a little bit different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment you can cancel anytime. You can bet any line available for Oregon games right now. Ohio State's up there. Michigan's up there. Washington is up there. Oregon, no surprise, big favorite over Idaho this Saturday. I'll have my score prediction on Friday, but anything you want, FanDuel's got it. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's where you go to download America's #1 sportsbook. I'm all fired up after that segment. Oregon 12-0. I can see it happening. Do you think they'll make t-shirts again? I don't know. Maybe. That'd be a very Oregon thing to do, of course. As I'm recording the show, by the way, I have not checked out the 4th episode of That Team Out West. I have about 7 million things that I'm getting ready for at the moment, but I will watch it ahead of tomorrow's show. Nexterday is the word that was kind of coming out of my mouth there. And then I'll have a full reaction to it. But if you've seen it, and you want me to address anything in particular, let me know your thoughts in the YouTube comments. Here's something that came out recently that isn't ideal, but isn't incredibly worrisome yet. Oregon's had one major injury, but a couple other notable ones going into the Saturday game. Is it worrisome? Not against Idaho. There's no level of injury, including to Dylan Gabriel, who is fine. There's no injury there. I'm just saying that could cause me to be worried about how Oregon will perform against Idaho here. They lost their quarterback from last year. He transferred to Oregon State, but Idaho has been a really good program the last couple of years. They brought over the offensive coordinator from South Dakota State, Jason Eck, and he's done a really, really good job with the program. Had him in the FCS quarterfinals a year ago. The Kibbe Dome, kind of lit. I'm not even kidding. They put fans in there, and yeah, they got a heck of an environment. And I've been to the Kibbe Dome. It's pretty cool. So Dave Iuli and Jaleel Florence are out this week, which means I don't know who Oregon's starting number 2 corner is. I know that the boundary corner is going to be Jabbar Muhammad, but who's on the field side? Or maybe they flip-flop. Whatever, however you want to look at it. Cam Alexander, the UTSA transfer, pops into my head because he had an all-conference year last season and, comes into Oregon with prototypical size for what Dan Lanning likes in his outside corners. He's got great size. I think he's he's over 6 feet tall, and I think that Alexander is someone that is capable. I wasn't wowed by him in the spring game. It could be him. It could be Nico Reed. It could be Roderick Pleasant. It could be a number of guys. Really interested to see who that first slot is. That's going to be one of the most traffic tweets, I think, early in the Oregon game when the defense takes the field. Jabbar Muhammad is over here. Who's over there? Who's over there? I don't know. You tell me. drop your prediction in the comments below. So I don't think that one's too big of an injury. But no Jaleel Florence, no Dave Iuli, no Matthew Bedford. That means Charlie Pickard probably going to start at center with Poncho at right guard. Poncho, the true sophomore, Charlie Pickard, the former walk-on. I feel good about Poncho. We'll see how Pickard holds up. That becomes one of the biggest question marks that I look for Oregon to answer in the early weeks as they get set for Big Ten play at the end of the month against UCLA. But one of the notable injury reports, according to Eric Skopel over at 24/7 Sports, is that Terrance Ferguson, as those of you who clicked on the YouTube thumbnail for this particular segment on YouTube might have seen, had a club on his hand. Now, reportedly, per Skopel, he's able to catch passes with it, but he has a club on his left hand. It's not a problem right now. It's not a problem right now for two reasons. Number one, Patrick Herbert, incredibly capable tight end. Not his first rodeo. Patrick Herbert is very capable. Can you make the same sorts of throws to T-Ferg that Oregon did last year when he's got the club there? Remains to be seen. He can make some basic catches. You know, when I think club and catching the ball, I think Jordan Happel was the guy's name. 2021 at Washington had that interception. You can catch the ball, but you think of the one-handed snare T-Ferg had in the Pac-12 championship game, or the catch against Utah on third down where he's going behind his body in between a couple of guys, or the touchdown against Stanford when a guy's trying to punch the ball out and his hands are too strong. You can't make those plays. And that's what makes him such a versatile weapon. So hopefully by the time Oregon play, again, by Boise State would be preferred, but if Patrick Herbert has to step up, that's very possible. That, you know, in those sorts of situations, you either come up with different play calls that don't require, you know, a one-on-one fade shot to a tight end in the end zone, or you think Patrick Herbert's ready for that, or I know this is going to excite people. How about this? Does Kenyon Sadiq see some major run? I'm just throwing ideas out there. If you wanted to run that same play from the Pac-12 title game, you know, fake quarterback power tight end release to the corner, can Pat Herbert make that catch? Yep. Against Idaho, his home state, do they maybe want to give Kenyon Sadiq a little showcase moment? I don't know. I don't think they have to. Like, going into this year, Kenyon Sadiq is the number 3 tight end. He has to be the most hyped and excited to watch from a fan standpoint, number 3 tight end in the history of Oregon football. But it's because he's a really exciting player. he could be really good. And I think everybody likes Patrick Herbert. Great guy, good player, has been a solid tight end in this room the last couple of years. I'd never think of Patrick Herbert, you know, post-injury as a number 1 tight end sort of guy. But is he a great number 2? Yes. Can he fill in for T-Ferg? Yeah, I think he can do an ample job there. But, yeah, does that mean Kenyon Sadiq gets a couple more targets? Could be. I mean, if you got shot plays in the end zone to a tight end, I don't think you're throwing the ball up to T-Ferg and having him, you know, do his own version of David Tyree. Instead of pinning it against the helmet, you pin it against a club. I think you'd probably put a guy out there who's got 2 healthy hands. I do not know the extent of the injury. I've not read that anywhere either, or, you know, what the expectation is for how long he'll have to wear the club. But certainly it's something to monitor. And, you know, guys play with it, and it works all the time. I think Troy Dye played with the club. There's another one. Troy Dye had an interception 2019 Pac-12 championship game against Utah with a club on the hand. So it can be done. It can be done. But could it open the door for Kenyon Sadiq? Maybe. That'd be kind of fun. A couple other names that will not be playing. Mikhail Gardner, defensive lineman, who looked really good in the spring game. And Dakota Fields, who had an interception in the spring game, if memory serves. I'm pretty sure that was Fields. Down the field on Nova's side, covering Jurion Dickey, who I'll get to in just a moment. Those 2 guys both expected to be out. And, you know, I wasn't expecting either one to be a starter or even a heavy rotation guy. But against Idaho, this was going to be an opportunity for them to see the field, because Oregon should be able to get this game in hand pretty quickly. But the more interesting one is Gary Bryant Jr. So he's questionable. That's what the reports have been. What Lanning said is that he's questionable, not sure if he's going to be able to go. If he can't, could this be a Jurion Dickey breakout game? He is yet to People can correct me if I'm wrong because I'm thinking of this off the top of my head because I thought about it just now as I'm recording the show. He is yet to have a game with multiple receptions. If Gary Bryant Jr. is not able to go, and certainly this is not, a player that needs reps. He's going into his fourth year of college football. This is not a guy who you feel like needs to force it out there if he has a risk of getting injured. If they hold him out, does Jurion Dickey slide in and become the number 4 receiver? And do we truly, for the first time, get a fully healthy glimpse of what the former 5-star wide receiver can be in his redshirt freshman season? Maybe. But that's, if Gary Bryant Jr. can go, then yeah, you're going to play him. You want the continuity with the offense and have him get the first team reps. And Dickey and Kyler Casper, who a number of you have asked me about throughout the week, understandably so, with the wide receiver position, they're going to have an opportunity to be on the field. It's a matter of when, not if. How quickly does Oregon's offense fire on all cylinders and get some reserves into the game and Oregon get a glimpse at the future? That's one of the most exciting things about playing this Idaho team is what do the starters look like and which reserves get in the game and who gets in first. I am stoked to watch it all. Hopefully T. Ferg is able to get back healthy. And if he does, and then we get a little more Kenyon Sadiq, that'd be pretty cool. You know what else would be pretty cool? If there was more show. Oh, what do you know? More to get to. Some Big Ten expectations, including who can become a thorn in Oregon's side? A fascinating question that I will answer next. After, of course, we talk about 5-hour energy. Are you tired after lunch? I often am. I'm a proponent of naps, but guess what? Naps take a back seat to 5-hour energy. A 5-hour energy shot helps you leap over that wall instead of crashing into it that studies show 70% of us hit. They've got a lot of things going for them with 5-hour energy. Portable size, zero sugar, convenient, perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done, particularly in the afternoon. The 5-hour energy website has flavors galore. Watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and more. There's a flavor for everyone, so go try them all. You can put together your own 12-pack or your own 24-pack, and 5-hour energy will send them to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, which is the number 5, and then ourenergy.com and get some 5-hour energy product, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid till September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. And last but certainly not least, today, this episode brought to you by our friends over at Ibotta. Are you taking that dream vacation this summer, but dreading the cost? Are you going to do that this fall? Are you going to do it next summer? Well, guess what? With Ibotta, you get cash back on all your purchases, so you can spend more time making memories this summer and less time dreaming about them. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time that you shop. Earn on hundreds of items, from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys and beyond. So you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. You can do quite a bit with $5, more than you might think, depending on where you're shopping, but you can save even more than that. The average Ibotta user saves over $250 a year. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store, download the free Ibotta app, start earning cash back, use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store. Use code LOCKEDONCollege. So many things to get to. So, Oregon is going to officially have a Big Ten jersey patch on the jersey. I should have said Big Ten logo on the jersey. That would have sounded a lot more fluid. So, third segment, rocky start, but not about how you start, it's about how you finish. Duck Football 03 asks, does being in the Big Ten help recruiting? Yes. Is it majorly shifting recruiting? The answer to that question is no. It might help you with a guy here or a guy there, which can move your ranking up a couple of different spots. Oregon has been recruiting at this top 10 level before they got into the Big Ten. They would have done that had they not been in the Big Ten. They are going to do that now that they are a part of the Big Ten. Do top 5 classes feel more feasible? Yes. But in any other conference, no matter what we're talking about in that hypothetical world, Is a top 10 class the standard for success for Oregon on the recruiting trail? Yes, absolutely. That's the standard that Dan Lanning has set, and I think that's what they're capable of going forward. So it helps you get on more television sets, certainly when you play teams like Ohio State and Michigan. Those are two of the 5 most watched college football teams every year. I think Ohio State's usually number 1. Oregon's game against Ohio State in 2021, I think had like 12.5 million viewers. That's even more than the Colorado game last year. That's what a postseason game typically does in college football, 12.5 million. That's a lot of people. So when you get on more television sets, when you have more exposure, you're playing in different time zones now, when you go play these road games and people can come see Oregon in person when they wouldn't otherwise have a chance to, yeah, you can expand your recruiting base. This question came from Tony. Recruiting question. When do the schools get to have 100+ players on the team? Part 2, is this all scholarship players? Yeah, so the question about expanding the rosters, which to my knowledge hasn't been officially confirmed yet, but is expected to go forward. I don't. That's not for this year, I believe. That is for next year. That is my understanding of it. Are they all scholarship players? Yeah. One of the worries that was raised was, is this the end of walk-ons? It could be, and expanding the rosters could allow for bigger programs to harbor more of the elite talent, but the transfer portal somewhat nullifies that. I don't think walk-ons will go away. They might just be put on scholarship more easily. I hope that's what happens. I hope, because that's something very unique to college sports, is guys that get to play, be a part of the team, practice every now and then, get into the game, that have no future as a professional athlete. Like, this is it for them, and they just want to have an opportunity to take the field 1 or 2 times in their careers, and it's the best. I hope that doesn't go away. I really, really don't, and that the more scholarships, yeah, maybe you add a couple more guys to the recruiting class, but that you also look at guys that are walk-ons now and say, we want you to be a part of the team going forward, and just put them on scholarship. Nick asks, okay, so how to phrase this? Oregon has a history of having unfathomably dumb issues with Stanford, Cal, and any team playing at Arizona State. The desert is the correct call there, in addition to Stanford. Looking towards the Big Ten, any team or teams you could see being Oregon's future thorns? I think we'll have a feel for that starting this year. I look at the rest of the Big Ten and the way that they play certain matchups, or the way that teams can just get a big team's number. Purdue's got to be near the top of the list. I mean, the upsets that they have pulled have been numerous. This is something that Purdue has done several times across a couple different staffs. I think they have won games that on paper they have no business winning. So Purdue is one that could be a thorn in the side. Oregon's 2-0 against Wisconsin in football in the Rose Bowls that they've played over the years. So I wouldn't lean towards the Badgers there, at least not right now. But Luke Fickell could be a really good coach. But they don't, I think, classify as a team you should beat that you then don't. I think Purdue could be in the mix. I look out for Rutgers, quite frankly. Greg Schiano, watch what they do this year. They have a lot of returning talent. I don't love their quarterback situation, but their quarterback room was horrid last year, and they made a bowl game and beat Miami in the Pinstripe Bowl and ended the year 7-6. So I won't be surprised if Rutgers can be in that mix, and I'm interested to see what David Braun does at Northwestern. Northwestern has had years where they do a lot better than they should. So those would be the 3 programs I would look at and say they shouldn't ever be at Oregon's level on paper, but maybe there is a game where you go to Piscataway, New Jersey, or West Lafayette, Indiana, or where is Northwestern's in the Chicago area, I think, and you walk away going, wait, why was that game so hard? Or, oh my gosh, Oregon lost this game circa Stanford 2021. So I like that question. I hate that question, but I like that question. Last one here from Bud for the day. If you could change one rule in college football, what would it be? Forever and always, teams should not set their own schedules. It is the worst thing about the sport, because it gives too much power to universities to manipulate their schedules, and that doesn't create the best product for fans or people like me. And I'm a fan first, but I'm also in the content creation space, and I want to have a lineup of college football games that is strong and engaging every single week. You could accomplish that in a much better way if scheduling was done on an annual basis and had some rhythm and rhyme to it rather than the random smorgasbord that we currently have. So forever and always, before I would change the 12-team playoff, I would change scheduling. So that was a nice loaded Wednesday show. 2, 3. That's the number. 3 more days as this show airs until there will be a real, honest to goodness Oregon football game. I will be there on Saturday. If you want to meet up in the tailgate area, shoot me a message on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, YouTube, subtext. It's all available to you. Gosh, I'm so excited. I'm very excited. Thanks for making this your first listen. Go make Locked On College Football your second. I host over there, giving you the biggest stories in the greatest sport on planet Earth every day, getting you ready for the season outside of what you need to know about Oregon. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.